And we thank him that he raised from amongst us that Georgia-born black man by the name of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we would have to thank God over and over again that he would give us in our lifetime a man that would reflect Moses, a man that would reflect for us Jesus, a man that would reflect Muhammad in giving to us that bold teacher, that bold leader, that bold one who's not afraid to tell the truth. And that's why we, the young and the old alike, we love this man, and that man is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And you should show your love for him because he's here in LA and he's ready to come on. So brothers and sisters, I want to thank all of you who helped to make this weekend a great weekend. But we want to show Minister Farrakhan that Los Angeles, we love him and that we will stand with him. Is that right? And if our enemy put their hands on him, we will stand up like you've never seen black people, brown people, white people, Korean people, Chinese people, because this man is loved around the world. Entertainers, basketball players, football players, gangbangers, huh? We will stand up for the first time if they put their hands on him. So will you help me bring to this podium, right here on this rostrum in Los Angeles, California, show your love, brothers and sisters, for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Come on, stand on your feet, shout to the top of your lungs, and show your love for a man that loves you. All praises due to Allah. I know that he's coming. We don't want to hold him. Here he is. Here he is. Here he is, Los Angeles. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Thank you so much for coming. How are you, sir? Glad to see you. Love you. Love you. You too. Love you so much, sir. Thank you. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, we thank Him, and we can never thank Him enough for His intervention in our affairs, raising up among us one to lead, teach, and guide us to the straight path of God, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I am indeed happy to greet you with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. To Minister Tony Muhammad and all of the hard-working laborers and believers of Mosque number 27, to all of the laborers of the Nation of Islam, the believers of the Nation of Islam, all of our friends and visitors, and those who have come out of curiosity, we thank you for your presence. We are honored by your presence. Distinguished rostrum full of great dignitaries, pastors, teachers, congresspersons, spiritual leaders, Native American giants. I cannot say enough to say how grateful I am and how honored I am by your presence with us today. The subject matter is healing the wounds to bring about a universal family. The whole human family is wounded. There is no segment of the population of the earth that is not scarred from wounds self-inflicted and inflicted by others in a world that the Quran and Bible says has been ruled by Shaitan or Satan. None of the wounds that we suffer from are without the possibility of healing. And those of you who are in this auditorium who may be afflicted as I speak to you with some illness physically, it is my hope and my prayer to Almighty God, Allah, who alone is the healer, that every one of your personal afflictions you might find after this afternoon that perhaps you won't have that affliction anymore by the grace and power of Almighty God, Allah. If you believe in God, faith is the vehicle on which He rides to heal whatever affliction humanity suffers. America is a great nation, but America is also wounded and in need of healing. September the 11th was a day that America shuddered and was horrified to see that 19 human beings who lost their humanity, so angry at America that they would seek to destroy the symbol of America's military might, America's economic might, and were it not for the courageous people on board that fourth plane, that plane might have been headed for the U.S. Congress or for the White House. This was America's first taste of what nations in the world have felt, having their countries destroyed, their cities destroyed, their people destroyed, But America has been spared what other nations and people live with daily when their nations are racked with civil war, civil strife. And this nation has been involved in the destruction of other nations and the bombing and destroying of other capital cities. But this nation has been spared. Ever since September the 11th, I have been hearing the cry of patriotism and the singing of patriotic songs, the best of which, America the Beautiful. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. As I remember my great brother from Georgia singing that song in the Georgia Capitol, I have never heard that song sung so beautifully as it was sung by our brother. But as I looked at the words of the song, oh, beautiful for spacious skies from God the Creator, amber waves of grain from the Creator, purple mountains and their majesty from the Creator, the fruited plains from the Creator. God has indeed shed his grace on America. But wait a minute. And crown thy good. Stop. Stop. Now this is where we come away from what God has done for beautiful America. But now, what are the citizens of America doing to promote good, that God would crown that good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea? As I look at this, I don't see brotherhood from sea to shining sea, nor do I see so much good that God could crown it to make all of the elements of America feel like we are real brothers and sisters of one another. The Native Americans don't feel that. The Latinos don't feel that. The Asians don't feel that. Certainly the blacks don't feel that. And many white Americans don't feel that. So it seems to me that there's some work that has to be done, some good that has to be produced, that God may crown that good with the joy of brotherhood from sea to shining sea. It seems to me that there's a lot of ugliness in America the Beautiful. Ugliness that can be turned into beauty. It reminds me of a cocoon out of which comes a caterpillar, from which comes a butterfly. America is not so beautiful, but what God has done is real beauty. But what man has done is not so good. In the book of Revelations, it talks about a mystery Babylon. A mystery Babylon that was like a golden chalice, meaning it was attractive on the outside, but on the inside there was filth and abomination of every kind. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that ancient Babylon was a sign of that mystery Babylon. That mystery Babylon had a people in it like ancient Babylon. A people whose names had been changed, a people whose religion had been changed, a people whose language had been changed, a people who were like styled as gold and silver vessels of God, but wine and strong drink had been poured into that vessel to corrupt it, to make it unfit for the service of God. America, a mystery Babylon. But the scripture says Babylon is fallen, is fallen. Why is she fallen? Because she has become a habitation of devils and a hole for every unclean and hateful bird, a cage. Babylon is fallen. What does that have to do with great America? Is America going to fulfill her destiny as the foundation of the kingdom of God on earth? Or is America going to fulfill prophecy? Not a good prophecy, but a prophecy that America would be like ancient Egypt, like ancient Rome, like ancient Babylon, like ancient Sodom and Gomorrah. America does not have to go that way. America can be America the Beautiful, but she must have a good shepherd. The leadership of America can either take America to hell or can lead America out of this ugliness and make America good so that God can crown that good. Where, as Martin Luther King saw it, that his little black children could walk with little white children, and Protestants and Catholics and Muslims and Christians and Jews and whatnot could walk together as brothers. That's not real right now. The children of Abraham are a disgrace to Abraham. Abraham would be displeased to see Muslims, Christians, and Jews who claim that Father, yet there's so much hatred between them. So much hatred has manifested out of religion that there seems to be more love and more brotherhood outside of religion than we find manifested in religion. But that cocoon out of which comes that crawling, wonderful little caterpillar, but something happens and all of its properties are broken down but not lost. And then something new and beautiful comes forward. Pat Buchanan just wrote a book called The Death of the West. He's very worried that the West is dying and that the white race is dying a natural death because they are below zero population growth. Zero population growth is a white person born, a white person dies. That's zero population growth. But according to Pat Buchanan and his research, the white race in Europe and in America are below zero population growth. So in the next 50 to 60 years, they're saying that the white race, if it maintains this posture of below zero population growth, the white race will be overwhelmed by the rise of the black and the brown, the red and the yellow. So there is cause in his mind for concern. The West, he said, is dying. And he's right. But the East is dying too. But don't be afraid, Mr. Buchanan, for the West to die. Paul said, I die daily for the Lord. If America does not die in her present form, she cannot come to birth in a new form that would be better than the old form, and I'll tell you what I mean. The founding fathers of this nation were very religious persons. Not deep enough, but God was on their mind. Christ was on their mind. They ran out of Europe to find freedom of worship. And think about this. Once this place was discovered, they opened the jails to let European convicts have a new birth of freedom. And they helped to build this. But when they wrote that beautiful Constitution, they didn't have us in mind. So when we look at the definition of America, Did you know that according to the dictionary, an American is a citizen of the United States, descendants of Europe or the original 13 colonies, but not one of the aboriginal races of the earth? Did you know that? Well, let's look at now definition. Because if that is the true definition of an American, everyone that is dark is un-American. Now, let's look at it now. Un-American black man, an un-American Native American, an un-American Asian American, an un-American Latino American. Now, when you look at the presence of darker people in America, we know the purpose for which we were brought here. We were brought here not to be citizens, but to be the burden bearers of the true citizens. Asians came to build the railroad. The Native Americans were already here, but they were destroyed and put on reservations. This place was not even to be a haven for Jews. And every ethnic member of the white race that came here had to struggle to find their place in America. The Italians had to struggle. The Irish had to struggle. So America has had struggles to find itself. Now America is being redefined. That's my point. Our presence is redefining America. Now, I've heard my critics say, Farrakhan, you're a separatist and we want a pluralistic society. Well, I certainly hope you do, because we did not separate ourselves. It seemed like a real separatist separated us. Now they want to put the blame on us. We couldn't be buried in the same cemetery with them. We couldn't go to the same toilet with them. We couldn't drink out of the same fountain with them. So don't tell us about separation. We couldn't live in a neighborhood with them without suffering brickbats and burning of our homes and whatnot. So don't tell us about separation. We couldn't go to your schools. We had to have our own school. Don't tell us about separation. Black people wanted to worship with you, but you made it so difficult for us, we had to leave you alone and organize our own churches. So will the real separatists please stand up? That's not beautiful. That's ugly. And you know the old saying, God don't like ugly. Look at every inch of advancement that we have made. There were men and women who sacrificed and shed their blood and gone to prison so that we could move ahead an inch or two. That is why none of us should be separated from those who struggled to make it possible for us to be where we are. We have Maxine Waters here, our great congresswoman from this area. She didn't get there as a fluke. There was a lot of suffering that went into her to make her the spokesperson for our hurt. Congressman Hilliard, Congressman Dimely, every one of these pastors, we know what pain is. But there's hope in the breast of us that America can be made beautiful. Let's see. Now, I don't think that the present leadership in America is on a path to make America beautiful. I wish that I could sit with the president and help him, because I think he's getting very bad advice. I wrote him a letter that I'm hoping, and I thank Mr. Jude Winniski, because I sent my letter that I sent to the president also to him, because he's a political economist and he knows all the big shots. And so he said, I'll get your letter to the president and to Colin Powell through other channels. And when I would write President Clinton, I would get an answer. May not have been the answer I was looking for, but at least I got an answer. I wrote Mr. Bush, and I don't know whether he got the letter or not. But I was telling him that I'm writing you from my prison. What prison? A prison not of bars, but a prison constructed for me out of my passion for truth and justice. I'm labeled as anti-American, anti-white, anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, anti-gay, and that propaganda has put me in a prison. So I wrote him like Joseph spoke to Pharaoh, out of prison. I know this Pharaoh don't only have troubling dreams, he has troubling realities. But I wanted him to know that we have paid a price, that this country is ours. And we don't feel that we are out of place to speak truth to power, because this is as much ours as anybody's, since the blood of our fathers soaks the soil of America, and we have died on every foreign battlefield to preserve a freedom that we have yet to enjoy. I didn't want my letter to become public, because sometimes people write to the president and make it an open letter for their own vanity's sake. I wanted this to be a private communication between myself and him. I wanted to counsel him And I wanted to warn him that God had shown me what was in his mind. And I was telling him what I know of his future plans and what the consequences would be if he pursued what he got in his mind. Now, some people may say, if you disagree with your president, you are not patriotic. Because this is a great flag-waving time, you know. If you don't have it on your car or on your windows or a big flag in front of your house, you might be stopped by the police and asked, "Where's your flag?" Not really, of course. And some people think that it is patriotic to be with your president. Wait. And he said, if you're not with me and us, you're with the terrorists. He don't give us any wiggle room. Well, we're not with you. And we are not any terrorists. But my friend Jude Winniski said, well, after 10 weeks and no answer, he called me one day and said, "Minister Farrakhan, I did not ask your permission. I sent it up on my website, and I sent your letter to about 300 journalists, and we'll see. Because some may not like certain things you said in your letter, and they might not even give it to him. So by making it public, now we feel he might get the message." Well, all right. Now that it's out there, I can discuss it. This is my country. I accept ownership. I can live anywhere on the earth. I am a citizen of the earth, and many countries would love to have me. But this is where my fathers died. This is where my ancestors paid a price. So don't tell me love it or leave it. I'm going to love it, and I'm not going to leave it, but to love it. I'm going to be a true patriot. Well, what is a patriot? Comes from the Latin word pater, which means father. The founding fathers of this nation set down a document. And anyone that reads that document would have to say there's some marvelous principles in that document. Once the country strays from those principles, a true patriot will not just wave a flag. The true patriot will call the errant one back to the principle that they are violating. Now that may be uncomfortable. That may cause you some pain or some grief or even some loss. But the question that the leadership has to answer here and there. If you love the country more than you love comfort, then if you see power misleading the people, you have an obligation. Well, they might call me a terrorist. They might say I'm aiding and abetting terrorism, and they might even charge me with treason and put me away. Yeah, they may do all of that. And you have to answer the question, what is better? For you to be quiet and let your nation go to hell and carry us with it? Carry your children down into the ditch of hell because you're too cowardly to stand up for what is right, because you would suffer a little? Look at how many people are suffering a lot to bring this nation to where it is. Hell no. If nobody stands, God is sufficient for me. I'll stand alone with God, and I'll be the winner. So to be a patriot, let's go a step further. Because if you're a Christian, and most of you say you are, can I get a witness? You know that there's a Father bigger than the Father of the country. We don't use that language in Islam, but the language has beauty in it, because the Creator is the Father of all creation. So when you pray saying, "Our Father, which art in heaven," you're recognizing a greater Father than the founding fathers. So you have a responsibility now to look at the principles laid down by the Heavenly Father. And if your government violates the principles of the Heavenly Father and the earthly fathers that established this country, then you have no choice. If you're a good Christian, you stand up. Now, dear Muslims and Jews, children of Abraham, you can't come to this point in America simply because Islam is under trial and hide yourself in your homes. You have a duty as a Muslim. Allah says in Quran, you are the best nation raised among men, for you enjoin good and you forbid evil. So a Muslim is duty bound to unite with Muslims and with Christians who want good, to follow Jesus Christ, and with Jews who want the righteousness of the Torah to be established. We have a duty. And if you fail in your duty, you haven't failed God. You have failed yourself But even more importantly, you failed your children, and you have failed unborn generations that can only find a better life if those of us now are willing to make a sacrifice for those who come after us. Now that I have talked about patriotism, Huey Long said that America would become fascist. And fascism would come under the guise of patriotism. Ooh. Adolf Hitler burned the Reichstag in Germany. And once the Reichstag was burned, they came up with all these draconian type laws that Hitler then could come in to power and take away the freedoms of the people. The World Trade Center. I don't know how a script writer that wrote the movie The Long Kiss Goodnight, how did he know in that movie members of the government were preparing a bomb? And I think they were going to bomb the World Trade Center. And I think when our brother Samuel Jackson was confronting this evil so-called American, they said, well, we'll just blame it on the Muslims, and then we'll go before the Congress and get the billions of dollars in defense money that they have denied us. Now, this happened a year and a half or 2 years before this thing went down. That was a long kiss goodnight. Now we live to see the manifestation of that. Was that script coincidental? I remember reading that American scientists had broken the German code of the Enigma machine, and they were about to bomb a town in England, and the decision that had to be made was, if we halt this, they will know that we have the knowledge of their plans and have broken their code. So we have to let those people die. And the rationale was, it will save more lives in the future. So that village was bombed, and those people did die, but that was a decision made at the top. I'm not suggesting that such an evil thought was in the mind of the leadership, but a lot has been going on in our government. Good people like Maxine Waters, good people like Congressman Hilliard, good people like Mervyn Dimely, good people are in the Congress. Good people are in government. But there has been, in recent times a shadow government that makes decisions that Congress don't know anything about. You know what I'm saying. But somebody got to say it. That's the point. And I'm not going to allow you to be popping your finger and doing all the latest dances while America's going to hell. You're partying. And that's the way it was when the flood came. They were drinking. They were partying. They were giving in marriage when the flood came. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. Somebody has to speak truth to power. I don't want it to be a soloist. I would like to see a chorus. And I'll fit in, play my part. But if I have to sing a solo, it's all right with me, because the prophet David, when he went after Goliath, he picked up 5 smooth stones, but he only used one. And I heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say that stone was this: Bismillah. Bismillah. Not only in the name of Allah, but with the help of God. What other help do you need? If God be for you, who can be against you and win? Now, I'm going to make a few brief statements on why I feel President Bush and the United States of America are in the greatest position of any leader and any nation that has ever been on earth. Not since Adam has one man or nation held sway over the whole earth. Today, America holds sway over the whole earth as the only remaining superpower. That can be a heady wine. And I have watched our president kind of stagger a little. He said he fell on a pretzel. I don't know. But power is a heady wine. And one must be careful. The greater you become, the more humble we should become. The more our face should be in prostration to the Almighty God, the one, the only, without associates. See, when you become so immersed in Him, then He gives you more power to do more good. I said to President Bush, and it was very respectful, I said, "Sir, you are in the position of the vicegerent of God." Now, the word vicegerent in Arabic is like the word Khalifa. He's over everybody. He got power, but there's somebody over him. And that's what, in drunkenness, he can forget. Pharaoh forgot. You see where he ended up. Okay. So I said to the president, there is no Muslim leader on this earth who can call for a holy war against America. Not one. My brother Imam is here with me, and I'm very honored to have Imam Warithuddin. My dear brother.
Alaikum salam. Allah is with you. I'll be with you. I love him.
I say that because he can witness if I speak the truth. And he's wise enough to correct if I don't speak the truth. So are my other brothers and sisters of religion here that can do the same for me. I don't think there's any Muslim leader on this earth that can summon 1,800,000,000 Muslims to a holy war. When the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was here, his successor was called Caliph. And this office that he was over was called the Khilafah. Some call it the Caliphate. This meant that the successor of the Prophet could order all the Muslims, and the Muslims were duty bound to obey that. You know how the Pope sits over all of Catholicism? And at one time, all Catholics were bound to be obedient to any edict coming from the Holy See. Today, however, it's a little different. They give him honor, but if they don't agree, they do what they think they should do. But the Caliphate or the Khilafah, we were bound to obey as long as that we were taught or asked to do was in accord with the Quran. We are commanded that we don't have to obey any order if that order is against what God has ordered in this holy book called Quran. See? So when Western powers saw that kind of power in Islam, which would weaken their ability to control the earth, they seized upon our own internal corruption. And with European machinations, they destroyed the Khilafah. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, never wanted different nations. Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Sudan, all these Muslim nations were to be one nation. No borders. When you accept Islam and bear witness that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger, you become a citizen of the whole Muslim world. At least that's the way the Prophet envisioned it. But the machinations of the shaitan made us now individual nations that subordinate the injunctions of the Quran to our own national desires. I said, but on the other hand, President Bush, you can summon the whole Muslim world against the West by how you handle this war on terrorism. Now, I want you to think about this. I told him, if you go after Iraq, your coalition is going to fall apart. And it's falling apart right now as we speak. for them to send Secretary of State Colin Powell to Congress to tell the members of Congress that we may have to go it alone. Stop it right now. In good conscience. Fearing only Allah. I cannot allow them to use the American soldiers, black, brown, and poor white, to fight a war that is unjust and wrong. You can give the soldiers higher pay. Like every tyrant, he always wants the army with him. But Mr. Bush's daughters are not going there. Mr. Cheney not going, neither his family. Mr. Rumsfeld, Mr. Wolfowitz. But these little black babies that couldn't find justice in the streets of America were asked to be all that they could never be and join the U.S. Army. And now you want to send them to topple the president of Iraq? Well, he's a bad man. He's trying to get weapons of mass destruction. Who said so? You've been in his country for over 8 years looking for weapons of mass destruction. You haven't found them yet. I heard the Secretary of State today threatening Iraq. We are prepared to use diplomatic, economic, and even military if Saddam Hussein doesn't open up his country and allow us to come in and inspect for weapons of mass destruction. Now, is America saying no nation on the earth should have these weapons? But America, England, France, and Israel should have this? What are you saying? Are you saying it's right for you, but wrong for North Korea? It's right for you, but wrong for Pakistan. It's right for you, but wrong for China. Right for you, but wrong for India. You want the rest of the world weak so you can dominate them and hold a threat of nuclear weapons over them that they cannot fire back at you? I'm just reasoning with you. I don't think any nation should have weapons of mass destruction, including America, England, France, and Israel, and anybody that has them. I just want you to reason with me. I visited Iraq. My wife, myself, my son, and several of the members of the nation. Since the war was over 1.5 million Iraqis have died, and they're dying every day because the dirty bombs that American propagandists said the Taliban and Al-Qaeda were developing America dropped those kinds of bombs on Iraq, bombs that have in their tips depleted uranium. They dropped more bombs on Iraq than on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, maybe 10 times. Children are dying every day from different kinds of cancers. I saw a shelter where old men and women and children were in the shelter when the bombs were dropped. And America dropped a bomb that had a drill on it. And it drilled a hole into that bomb shelter. Then another bomb came down behind it and exploded and incinerated everybody in the place. We saw the engraving of women and children in the walls. This is why I say to the members of Congress, don't let people tell you you shouldn't travel. Go to the places where they're telling you they're rogue nations. Don't let them give you intelligence from the CIA and you accept it. These are liars and deceivers. The soldiers are patriotic. They love this nation, as we should. We don't like the things about our nation that is not good, but I don't want to live anywhere else. I want America to be made right. I don't want to see America go the way of Rome and Babylon and Sodom and Gomorrah. But why won't you go that way if the men of religion and the women of religion keep silent? You stay in your churches and you preach to the choir to be good. Y'all be good. Praise the Lord. Don't smoke, don't drink, don't fornicate, don't commit adultery, don't you be gay, and God will love you. Well, you're telling some truth. But the prophets of God spoke truth to power. And I don't think any religious leader is worthy of God if you can't say to government, thus saith the Lord. If you're too weak to say to power, this is what God said in the book, and you have deviated from this, then you need to get on out the pulpit and stop sucking the blood of the people to be a coward in the name of God. God doesn't like cowards. He loves those who are patient and steadfast under trial. He's clear in the Bible and in the Quran, me and me alone should you fear. And if you're afraid of Bush, then you've set up a God beside God and are unworthy of God. Fear nobody but God. Wait a minute. Farrakhan, are you rallying people against our president? No, sir. For this same book says, and the Bible bears witness, respect those in authority over you, whether they are of your faith or not, whether they respect you or not, you should respect those in authority. That's how you have order in your society. But there is a way to make your disapproval known. Not by picking up a gun. Not by fashioning some bomb. The biggest gun that we have is truth. And the unity of people behind truth. Now, having said that, I said to the president, that you could have access to whatever you need from the world. Nations would give you access with joy if you would be fair with them and allow what you get from them to get a decent price so that they can improve the quality of life of their people. Colin Powell said, listen to his words, the war on terrorism must fight against poverty and disease, because poverty and disease breeds the terrorists. Half truth. Certainly we must fight against poverty and disease. But it's not just poverty and disease that breeds terrorists. It's the policies of a nation that allows other nations to be poor. And we rise to richness at the expense of the peoples of the world. That is not right. Politics is controlled by money. So the people's vote doesn't mean much when the lobbyists get to Washington and start passing money around. The vote follows. So you may not have the type of democracy that you want. You can get it, but let me move to why I think America has come to a crossroads. You must understand that power is linked in world politics to oil. And as the greatest industrial nation on the earth, America has an insatiable appetite for oil. When coal was the #1 energy in the world, Great Britain ruled the world. She had the greatest deposits of coal. But when the power to move engines moved from coal to oil, then England and America began vying for control of the places on this earth that produce oil. Who are the rogue states that America says she does not like? And let's see how oil is connected here. Would you put the map up for us, please? Now, I want you to point to Libya in North Africa. This don't reach. Oh, thank you. Now, this little desert country where most of the people live along the coast, because all of this is the desert, has the sweetest crude oil. One of the 3 countries in the world with the sweetest crude is Libya, Nigeria, and there's another one we'll get to. Now, if you hear the song we sing, how's it go? From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. Where's Tripoli? We will fight our country's battles on the land and on the sea. What are you doing over here? Did these people bother you? No, they got oil. America had bases here. Military bases for what? Oil. They had a king called Idris. And Muammar Gaddafi, as a young man, in a bloodless coup, overthrew the king. And then kicked the British out, the Americans out, and nationalized the oil. Now he could raise the standard of living of all the Libyans with money left over to aid the liberation struggle of people all over the world. America got very upset with that. You messing with us, Gaddafi? You're a terrorist. Show us Iraq. Here it is. Now, Iraq has a lot of oil. And next door is Iran. A lot of oil. So in Iran, there was a man by the name of Mohammed Mossadegh. And he nationalized the oil. He's a bad man then to America and England. Why was he bad? Because he wanted to use the oil to raise the standard of living of the Iranian people. What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that to our eyes. Something was wrong with that to the eyes of the rich and the powerful. So they organized a coup and overthrew him and placed a man on the throne called the Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi. Now, as that was their man in Iran, they gave him weapons, modern planes, but he was a Muslim, but he was not deep in the religion. So under him, the religion suffered. So the people that wanted their religion to come back to purity started organizing. The leader of that was Imam Khomeini. He found a home in Iraq, then he found a home in France, and then they overthrew the Shah. When they overthrew the Shah, they brought him back from France. He becomes the leader of Iran, angry with America. So they're upset with him. Okay, what do you do about it, America? I'll tell you what we're going to do. Show me the map of the Middle Eastern part of the world. Now look at this. Here in Saudi Arabia, they got a whole lot of oil. So President Roosevelt, he struck up a good relationship with the king. And Aramco had access to all this oil. The kings lived well, but they did well for their people, but it was no democracy. America don't care nothing about that. Just keep pumping the oil. You know, every one of us has somebody in our family that is a victim of drugs. Do you? And you know something about a drug addict? It's your son, it's your daughter. But ooh, they become artful liars. I mean, they can make up the fanciest stories just to get money to get to the drug. If you don't give them the money, when you turn your back, your fur coat is gone. When you turn your back, this is gone, that is gone. They become thieves, and then soon, if they get real bad, they become murderers. You know, America is an oil junkie. She doesn't care how she gets it. She must have it. I gotta have my fix, okay? So now, you know, Imam, I had a discussion with Prince Bandar of Saudi Arabia. That man Khomeini, when he came into Iran, he was angry with these sheikdoms here, Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates, and he was angry with the king of Saudi Arabia. He said, there's no king in Islam, only Allah is king. And in our prayer we say, "O Allah, thou art the king. There is no God but you." So this man, in his extreme devotion, he frightened Iraq, because Iraq the leadership was socialists. They're Muslims, but Iraq and Syria, socialists. The Ba'ath Party in power. So what did America do? America said, Saddam, we will give you money and build you into a great power as a bulwark against Iran. Prince Bandar told me that the Saudis gave to Hussein $80 billion to build him into a military power. If he has weapons of mass destruction, where do you think he got them from? He started spending the $80 billion. He spent it with France. France built him an atomic reactor. The day it was finished, Israel bombed it. United Nations ain't said nothing. If they did, it was very weak. My point is, Iraq was a friend of America then, because Iran and Iraq fought a war for 8 years and over 1 million little Muslims died. But after the war was over, Iran military was weaker, but Iraq still had some juice. And that man was tricked. You see this little place called Kuwait here? That used to belong to Iraq. But the British cut this little piece out and cut up all these little pieces. Why you do that, Britain? Britain is like, I don't want to say this and be misunderstood, but you know, I'm not going to say it. I'll put it this way. Whenever she leaves a place, she leaves it in a condition that will produce war. Yes, sir. So, now you have Iraq strong, Iran weak. Now trouble in Kuwait with the oil wells. They want to go into Kuwait. They speak to the American ambassador. And the American ambassador said, well, we don't have nothing to do with that. So they marched into Kuwait. Then Margaret Thatcher came out of England and went down to Colorado and met with President Bush. The next thing we know, Saddam, you have to get out of Kuwait. And when he went out of Kuwait, all these oil fields were set on fire. Guess what? The billions of dollars that the United Arab Emirates and the Kuwaitis have in banks in America, they had to pay American companies to go in, put out the fire. In the Congress of the United States, I read where some congressperson said, this is the first war we had where we made a profit. Because all the richness of Arabia, Kuwait, and the Arab Emirates was darn near drained from them. America put her soldiers there, and Arabia fit the bill. All right, let's go a little further. Look over here, Sudan. Come on, show me Sudan. Here it is. Do you know what? They found the largest deposit of oil anywhere in the world. Guess where they found it? In the southern Sudan. So now what America is trying to do is foster the revolution here to break off the southern Sudan from the Islamic regime in Khartoum, so that America could have access to the oil. But they say it's them Muslims killing Christians, making slaves out of these people in the South. Check this out. Y'all all right? I'm almost finished. America sent arms to Eritrea and Ethiopia. Are you listening? Then these two, they sent arms to Uganda. Raise it up a little. Come on. Come on. Now, here's Uganda. So here, all along the border of the Sudan, war was started with the Sudan. America, Uganda, Ethiopia, and Eritrea. But something happened. Eritrea started using her weapons of war against Ethiopia and vice versa. So they couldn't give Sudan the trouble that America wanted. America is something. You don't know these things because you don't travel, and you don't know these things because you're not interested, and you don't know these things because foreign policy is not for the common American, and that we have to change. I believe if the American people knew foreign policy would that which is better in the American people. Now let's see. Okay. Now, oil is discovered here. They want that. Let's go to Nigeria. Now, there's some sweet oil here. Do you know what America tried to do? Tried to separate, I think it's the eastern region, and call it Biafra, which sparked a civil war in Nigeria, causing thousands upon thousands of lives to be lost because of American foreign policy. Are you listening to me? I ain't finished. Let's go back to Afghanistan. All right. Now let's go up a little higher. Come on, come on. Move a little higher, right in here. See this place called Baku? This has been the place that oil has been coming out of this area for years and years and years. But the Soviet Union had control of the oil in Kazakhstan, in Uzbekistan, and in Tajikistan. All this area the Soviet Union had. Now America really something foreign policy. Let me go. Have you ever heard of Zbigniew Brzezinski? I know you didn't. You all heard of Shaq though. The great Shaquille O'Neal. John Sally, but we don't know Zbigniew. But Zbigniew got us in trouble. Look at Zbigniew. He was the national security advisor under President Jimmy Carter. Guess what? Show me Afghanistan quickly. Come on, bring it up, bring it up, bring it up. Good, good, good. Afghanistan. Did you know that in the city of Kabul, 20-some years ago, the Muslims, women, they were in government, they were in school, they were in medicine, but something was wrong with Afghanistan. You know what was wrong? The government in Kabul leaned more toward the Soviet Union. They were Muslims, but they had a socialist leaning. America didn't like that. So Zbigniew Brzezinski, an American policy, sent money into Afghanistan to destabilize the government in Kabul. When they brought up and paid for opposition to the government in Kabul, Russia, the Soviet Union, sent their troops into Afghanistan and the war began. When the war started, Osama bin Laden was in Arabia growing up. He loves Islam. He loves Muslims. He sees the Soviet Union taking over Afghanistan. Now there's war in Afghanistan to get the Soviet Union out. America says, we're going to back those Muslim mujahideen. So American money, American weapons, trained them, and they drove the Soviet Union out after 10 years of war, which left Afghanistan now in ruins. Then they were looking to America to help them, and America backed out and left them in that condition, and a civil war broke out right there in Afghanistan. This is all truth. The country is already in ruins. Our civil war. Now you got the Taliban. So the Taliban comes to power. They want a pure Islamic state, whatever that is, which we're all searching, to find out what that is. And everybody's trying to represent what that is. And I think some of them mean well, but boy, I wouldn't want to live in no state like that. And I'm a Muslim. I think my wife would kill me if I put her in a burqa, put a tent on her and said, come on, you walk behind me, cover your face. I don't want to see nothing. And some of you think that that's Islam. If the prophet could come back today, he might put you over his knee and beat you for putting women under that kind of tyranny and calling it Islam. We got a big job to do, Imam. I'm almost finished. Now the Taliban are in power. They control 90% of the land except this part in the northern area. And guess what? President Bush, when he came into office, which some think was a coup. I better drink some water. I didn't say that I think that, but some people think it was a coup. Why is that? Well, Mr. Gore won the popular vote. Mr. Gore didn't win Tennessee, his own home state, and he didn't win Arkansas, President Clinton's home state. So it threw the thing down into Florida. And a lot of trouble there. A lot of black folk didn't get to vote. A lot of Jewish people, they pushed a little something and the Chad fell one way when they wanted somebody else. So those Jewish people were robbed of their vote. The blacks were robbed of their vote. And then all of a sudden, the Supreme Court got involved. It did it all in a civilized way, though, After all, we're a nation of laws and not of men, so these men got together finagling with the law, and the next thing we know, we got a new president, and the country is angry. And on the day that that man was inaugurated, you had the largest protest demonstration in the history of the inauguration of any president. And they were calling President Bush the man that stole the presidency. Y'all forgot that, didn't you? The country was deeply divided until September the 11th. Congress was locked down and struggled, Democrat and Republican, until September the 11th. I read something written by two Frenchmen called Osama bin Laden, The Forbidden Truth. And they said that early on in the Bush administration, he was negotiating with the Taliban. And he said they were a source of stability. Why was he negotiating? Let me tell you. Look up here. All of this, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, this is oil. And guess what? A company called Unocal owns 75% of the oil up here. Mr. Dick Cheney, I think. And what they wanted was a pipeline to come down through Afghanistan into Pakistan, into the Arabian Sea, the Indian Ocean, as an outlet for the oil of that area. The Taliban didn't agree. Now, listen to this. Back in July, an American representative went and met with the Taliban, sometimes in the UN, sometimes right here, or in Peshawar, in Pakistan, and said, look, either you accept a carpet of gold, or we will bury you under a carpet of bombs. This is July. September the 11th. Now, Osama bin Laden. They didn't know nothing the day before. September the 10th, you don't know nothing about no terrorists. September the 11th, 12th, and 13th, they got 19 faces in the paper. These are the guys. Well, when did you learn that? How did you learn that? Something is wrong with this picture. Now look at this. Muslims, Arabs got all the blame, sure enough. And they went immediately to the Congress, beating the drums of war. See, we've been attacked. This is a shame. Oh, look at all the Americans that lost their lives. Yeah. President asked for 20 billion. Congress said no, 40 billion. And the big military powers saying, our companies are not going to go down. Now you got to keep that spirit of war up now, see? So you are the pawns in all of this. The media drumming it up. And nobody that had a serious voice of questioning, it cut them off immediately. And, you know, some very good Christians, like Billy Graham's son. I mean, that's big when you come from Billy Graham. And he spoke something very ugly about Islam. And so did Reverend Falwell. The God of Islam is a God of hate. And the God of Christianity is a God of love. Ask them black people who died in the South and all the people that dying all over the world from so-called Christians. It's all right, it's all right, it's all right. This brother just needed a little water. He'll be all right. Leave him alone. He's good. See him getting up. Don't lose your attention over here. We got somebody to handle that over there. But I'm almost where I want to be. Now, I'd like to take you to Asia a minute. Let's go to Indonesia. Now, right here in Indonesia, a lot of islands, this is one of the largest concentrations of Muslims in the world. There was a leader here called President Sukarno. He's a strong nationalist. And in 1955, that man, Sukarno, called what is called the Bandung Conference, where all the darker nations of the earth were invited, and no European nation was invited. No white people invited to that at all. Now that sent a strong signal to Europe and America. What are they talking about? that we can't come. Well, they were talking about you. Well, that's what they were doing. Then notice this. Sukarno was overthrown, and a man by the name of Suharto came to power. And as I asked President Wahid, former president of Indonesia, I had read that over 500,000 Indonesians lost their lives from the CIA stuff. And President Wahid said, no, it was more close to 1 million. Now, you want to know why people in the world hate? You don't understand the dirt that goes on in your name. And that's why the American people have to be awakened. Am I upsetting you? You know, I'm not trying to upset you. But now that they've destroyed the Taliban, Mr. Karzai, whom America set up, he now will get the carpet of gold. And let's see if that pipeline won't come through. Now I'd like to close this so-called war on terrorism gives every repressive regime in the world a hiding place, because all they have to do is say, I'm fighting terrorism. Now, brothers and sisters, there is a difference between a terrorist and a freedom fighter. You have to know the difference. If you were a slave master, Nat Turner was what? I said, if you were a slave master, Nat Turner was a terrorist. But to the slave, he's a freedom fighter. If you were in Haiti, when Napoleon sent his armies there, to Napoleon in France, Toussaint Louverture and Dessalines and Christophe were terrorists. But to the people of Haiti, freedom fighters. If you were a part of the Crown of England, Paul Revere, the Minutemen, Crispus Attucks, terrorists. But to the Americans in the colonies, these are the freedom fighters that gave you what you call the United States of America. Now, on this earth, there are regimes that are unworthy. And there are people who earnestly want to be free. And if you lived in South Africa, Mandela was a terrorist to the South African leadership, but to the suffering people, he was their champion. And that's why he's honored all over the world, because he was willing to pay a price. John Brown, a white man who hated slavery and fought against it. To the establishment, he was an enemy. But in his conscience, he died because he believed that slavery would be the undoing of America. Martin Luther King Jr. To many whites in this nation was a troublemaker. Am I lying? Some of you that got his picture on your wall today, when Martin Luther King spoke against the war in Vietnam, many preachers turned him down, turned against him, turned on him. To J. Hoover, he was an un-American and a demon. But to us, he was a freedom fighter. Malcolm X, to the government of the United States, was an enemy of America, but to us, a freedom fighter. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, was called un-American and enemy, but to us, he's a freedom fighter. So as beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, I ask the United Nations to develop a definition of what a terrorist is and use that as a standard by which to judge who is and who is not. The UN right now cannot define what a terrorist is. And because they are slow in coming up with a definition, every repressive regime now is having a holiday, killing people that are trying to call them back to faith. So when America says, this is not against Islam, the religion of Islam is the religion of peace. It's President Bush saying this. You don't lie on our religion. It is the religion of peace. But this book, Quran, contains guidance from Allah through Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, of every situation that you would confront up to the day of judgment. So it teaches us how to conduct war and how war should end. It's a great religion. But the press has made the world think that Islam is a religion of terrorism. Who was Timothy McVeigh? What church did he belong to? You don't even know. Because when they wrote of Timothy McVeigh, his actions were so un-Christian-like, they would never say Christian Timothy McVeigh. They just said Timothy McVeigh. How in the hell is it then that everybody that does something wrong and makes a mark on the faith, you have to put our faith in it? Muslim terrorists. These two words are not synonymous. They have no compatibility with each other. No Muslim is a terrorist. But every Muslim is challenged by God to stand up against tyrants. Speak against them. Do something to stop tyranny. So I guess every tyrant President Bush does intend to go into Iraq. He's made you believe that Saddam Hussein is a terrible man. He's no more terrible than Bush. He's no more terrible than Bush's father. He's no more terrible than Clinton. Because all of them do things in the name of their government that if the truth were made known, there would be a Nuremberg trial for American presidents. And I believe that's why Milosevic is on trial right now. Because in the Nuremberg trial, soldiers were asked, why did you obey Hitler when he told you to put men, women, and children in ovens? They said, we were soldiers. We were obeying our orders. But Nuremberg said, you do not have to obey an order when that order invites you to destroy human life for nothing. Do you think that President Bush is justified by law to go into Iraq and sit Saddam Hussein down? Answer me. What law gives him the right to do that? The Monroe kept America out of the affairs of other nations and kept them out of our affairs, because every sovereign nation has the right to govern itself. And if the people under that leader do not like that leader, they have the right to sit him down. But America does not have that right. Do you agree? Yes, you do? Yes, well, we're tired of marching on Washington, man. Sorry, you know, but Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. All of the war machines of the world today are using young people to fight wars. That's why they see the rappers as dangerous, because the rappers are taking their children from them. Suppose the rappers, instead of using foul and filth language, started becoming emissaries of peace. Since they're listened to all over the world, just put that beat behind it and have the people saying they're not going to kill. another human being. Just think. And the baby starts singing in kindergarten. And before you know it, they say it's a draft. Then somebody will say, well, my mama told me stay out of drafts, I might catch a cold. Muhammad Ali lost the heavyweight championship of the world, not in the ring, but because he had the courage to say, them Viet Cong ain't never called me nigger. Today, he's an international hero. I can't keep quiet and let these young people die to satisfy the bloodlust of the President of the United States and the war hawks that are misadvising him. Now, I have shown you some ugliness of America the Beautiful. She has more people in prison than any nation on earth. She has more people on drugs than any nation on earth. She has more people in insane asylums and more people taking medicine for mental condition than any people on earth. But I believe that America can be beautiful. How can America be made beautiful? Now, family, listen. My brother Imam Warathuddin and I have had disagreement, but his followers and mine have never given each other as much as a bloody nose. Because in spite of our differences, there's a deep love in us. And it makes my heart sing with my brother here. And we work together for the common good of Islam and the common good of humanity. This is beautiful. It's beautiful when people have disagreement and find a way to reconcile that disagreement to produce harmony out of discord. That's beautiful. White people and black people don't have to be at odds with each other. But there's a mentality that has to be assaulted. The mentality of white supremacy that produces black inferiority must be destroyed. Wait a minute. To every white person in the audience, you should not feel that your color makes you superior. That makes you sick. Because if your color makes you superior, then you don't have to produce. You can just be white. And since we live in a society that have extolled whiteness and subtly and overtly put down blackness, as though God made some mistake by giving us some pigmentation. How did he make a mistake? He didn't make a mistake with flour. come in every color. Are in different colors. Why shouldn't human beings be? So you went out and bought a white dog and it had a black spot on it. Were you up all night bleaching the black spot? Because that disfigured your white dog? You're not stupid in that area. You just stupid as heck when it comes to recognizing the beauty in the diversity of the characteristics of human beings. So, white racism has to die. And I want to kill it. I want to kill it. I want to take 4 heads so I can get me a button in my lapel and get a free trip to the holy city of Mecca. Wait. What am I talking about? Your head is where your problem is. We have to take the head of racism off and replace it with a human head. Wait now. But neither are we superior to others because we're black. For you to walk around saying I'm better because I'm black, that's fine. But then you have to go to the white man for a job. And if he don't give you a job, you get a picket sign. Well, how are you better then? If you can't do something for yourself and help yourself, then you are not better than the next man simply because you're black. You can't put a black face on non-productivity and walk around saying you're better. So you know how I want to kill racism? You know how you kill white supremacy? Don't go to the gun shop. Don't do that. You kill it with excellence from the darker people of the world. Every time a black person does something excellent, white folk have to look at it and say, whoa. Every time a Latino does something excellent, you're proving to white people that excellence is in other people other than white people. So racism is really dying now. Because black excellence, brown excellence, the excellence of the Asians is becoming manifest now. You can't say you're the best in the world at everything. We used to whip you all the time on the dashes, and we still do. But now our brothers from Africa, whipping you in the distance running. You still winning pole vaulting. You used to be the only top basketball players. You didn't let us in. Sorry about that. But the moment you let us in, oh boy, didn't we bring color to the game? You didn't let us into football. Now you don't have a team unless we're on it. Tennis and golf, that was your thing. Not today. When Jesse Jackson ran for the nomination of the Democratic Party, to watch Reverend Jackson debate with the white members of the Democratic Party. Little black children knew when they watched him. They said, boy, we can be president now. We're not only the best in basketball, the best in baseball, the best in football, the best in tennis, the best in golf. You don't have to ask us about music. Now you're getting so good we don't know who's white or who's black anymore. I heard somebody singing the blues the other day. I knew it had to be black. And I was so surprised. It was this white person singing the blues, but I lost my baby. Yeah, you're going to lose more than your baby if you don't watch yourself. If you were at the dinner the other night and you heard my sister Karen Briggs play that violin, oh man, that's excellence. And soon all of you gonna know my little sister down in front, Sister Ty Murray, 19-year-old genius with that violin. Black excellence is the only way to destroy the evil of white supremacy and black inferiority. You must strive for excellence. God created nothing mediocre. Don't settle for mediocrity. My Latino family, God made you excellent. Show your excellence. My Native American family, there's a lot that we can learn from the Native Americans. Show your excellence. And every black, brown person, Native American that shows excellence, you see white supremacy dying a natural death. Yes, Pat Buchanan, the West is dying. Old America is dying. And a new America is coming to birth. And that new America will be better than the old America, because the new America will accept a message that lifts us beyond our color, beyond our ethnicity. It's a shame that we allow a piece of earth to define us. You know me, I'm from Egypt. Or you know me, I'm from the Sudan. Well, you know, I'm from Mississippi. You know me, I'm from Alabama. And what is that? Just another piece of earth, brother. You can't be defined by no little piece of earth and say that I am that. That's why nationality is criminal almost. You're more than any piece of earth. You are shaped and molded to be God's vicegerent on earth, to master everything that He created. He opens that all up for us if we submit to Him and set up no rival or partner with Him. The universe is ours to master. To my Christian family, you are not. Ooh, what did you say, Farrakhan? I'm not taking anything away from you. But listen to me. If you are a part of racism, you're not Christian. If you're a part of sexism, you're not Christian. If you're a part of nationalism, you're not yet Christian. Because the book says in Christ, there is no Jew, no Greek, no bond, no free, no male, no female. All are one in Him. In Him. not outside of him, on the periphery of him, talking good about him, praising God for him, but not trying to get in him. And let him get in you. You have some growing to do, Christians. To my Jewish friends, you know, to be a Jew is not to be a part of a race. Did you hear me? Jew is not a nationality. To be a Jew is a state of being in a special covenant relationship with God through obedience to his laws, statutes, and commandments. That's what makes a Jew. Chosen of God. You can't walk around with that on your lapel. You know, I'm chosen of God. Well, if you are, you should manifest him. I'm a Jew. I'm a Christian. And I'm a Muslim. Or I'm confused. Paul said, the Jew is not the Jew outwardly. The Jew is the Jew inwardly by the circumcision of the heart. So every one of us that clean up our hearts and allow ourselves to love God alone and worship God alone and submit our will to God alone, obeying his statutes and commandments, you become a Jew in the true sense of the word. What is a Christian? One crystallized into oneness with God, following the example of Jesus Christ. And to us, Jesus Christ was a Muslim. Well, can you prove that, Farrakhan? Now, wait a minute now. Wait. You may say, now, Farrakhan, you're stretching it. I was going down the road with you. Now you've just gone too far. How could Jesus be a Muslim? Well, you got to ask yourself, what is a Muslim? A Muslim is one who submits his or her will to do the will of God. Following that definition, Jesus said, not my will, thy will be done. Whatsoever I hear, that I speak. Whatsoever you command me to do, that I do. Jesus never told you that he was a God beside God. He never told you to worship him. He told you worship the Father. He never told you to pray to him. He said, pray to the Father in my name. You got it all messed up. That's why you don't have power. You short-circuited your power by worshiping other than God. I'm a Christian. I love being crystallized into oneness with God. And you know what? I try to follow the example of Jesus. You do, Farrakhan? Sure. And you know what? It's hard to follow him. You know why it's hard to follow Jesus? Because in order to follow Jesus, you can't be a natural man. He's not asking you to be unnatural or a freak or nothing like that. But Jesus is asking you to be supernatural, because it is only the supernatural that can bring about redemption. Let me prove my point. If my brother slaps me on my cheek and I slap him back, that's natural. He busted my jaw, I busted his. That's natural. If my brother talks about me, yeah, but I'll talk about you and your mama too. That's natural. But what Jesus was asking the disciples to do was to do something a little different than that. He said, bless them that curse you. I've tried it. That's hard though. It's hard now. He said, love them that hate you. Oh, that's hard, man. That's supernatural. That's almost crazy. But you're not a Christian unless you can do that. And I've tried to do that. I live that way. I try to live that way. Because if I do evil to those who do evil to me, I'm only promoting more evil. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told me that his teacher, Master Farad Muhammad, told him, take plenty. And he told me the same. If you can't take plenty from your people, you can't redeem them. You pastors, you sit in churches. Your people are going to talk about you. You can't go back now and smack them up or beat them down, use your pulpit to crush people. Take it and raise them from where they are. Take it. And what you'll find, you'll start reaching the inner core of that human being, and God is at the core of his nature. You just have to get past the rubbish. Well, what about being a Muslim? That's hard too. It's easy to say I'm a Muslim, but it's hard to be that. The Prophet, peace be upon him, he said, never be the aggressor, for Allah loves not the aggressor, but fight with those who fight with you. He said, when people are speaking evilly, better if you walk by nobly and say peace. The Prophet gave us arguments, and then he said, argue with them, but in the best manner. Don't get vile, don't get ugly. Win the argument on the basis of its truth, its logic. That's hard. Now, I believe in spanking children. I don't like the fact that now if you spank your children, they'll call 911 on you. I don't believe that children should be abused. I think these little fellas need to be trained properly, and sometimes just tapping the behind helps get a message to the mind. Now notice I said tapping it, not tearing it up. But there's a Christian pastor in Georgia that he believes in the Bible's teaching, spare not the rod and spoil the child. And now the society is taking the children from the man and from his parishioners. I think that's wrong. You see the policemen? They're carrying Glocks now, right? 9mm, what are they carrying? Huh? Y'all know what they're carrying. 9mm Glock. Thank you. And they got them heavy shotguns in the trunk, sometimes riding right beside them. Then they got a stick with steel in it to choke you to death. Then they got mace and stun guns. What are they dealing with? This must be a jungle. This must be a zoo. If you don't discipline your children, tomorrow they'll have to face the gun, the stick, and the courts of America, and long sentences behind bars. But none of you should take out your frustration on your children. That is abuse. And if you abuse them, then you give the society the right to take them from you. And while I'm on that subject, in my conclusion, no man should be beating up a woman. That's wrong. That's wrong, brothers. That is wrong. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, if you have to beat a woman, you shouldn't have one. I know they can get you upset sometimes. But most of the time they get us upset is because of our shortcomings. And you know they know our shortcomings. And you know they got enough mouth to point it out. And that's why you living in their mouth like a dentist. And sisters, you have to be wise how you handle these men. Or they're half crazy because of the world we live in. Lord, Shaq, I know you don't hit no woman. Oh, Lord. Can you imagine a 7'2", 300 and so many pounds hitting on a poor little woman? And usually the big fellas like us, we marry little teeny women. And sometimes you see that little teeny woman up in that man. We've got to learn to be much more respectful of each other. And I would like to close on this point and ask your indulgence. One of the great problems in the world today is not just our problem of getting justice, but it's the problem in the Middle East with the Israelis and the Palestinians. And if that problem doesn't get serious attention, it can engulf the whole world. I believe that a solution can be found to that problem, but I think the present leadership is making the problem worse. I think that Arafat would like to be a partner in the peace process, but he's not being given what he needs to rein in the extreme elements. I believe that if Prime Minister Ariel Sharon would say to Arafat, we're going to stop building settlements on the West Bank, and we will stop assassinating the leaders that we think are against us. In return, you go and tell Hezbollah and Hamas to stop strapping bombs on people and coming into crowded areas, killing our people. Give him something to go with. But don't demand of him that he should rein in those in Hamas and Hezbollah who are willing to die for liberation. No. You want to make him your policeman. That is not right. And you know, to President Bush and the government of the United States, you're not a reliable partner in the peace process, because you're leaning too heavily on one side, and therefore you can't be a serious peacemaker. Did I say something wrong? Let me show you this picture. Oh, you got the president. Well, while he's up there, let me say to our president, President Bush, I believe you can help to bring peace to that area. But there's a way to do it. You know, every time one of the Palestinians comes strapped with a bomb, the response from the Israeli government is the use of F-16 planes, which are American, tanks from America, helicopter gunships from America, rockets from America. The Palestinians have nothing. So they're so exhausted and exasperated. Think about that. Strapping bombs to themselves, making themselves a weapon. And then for the world to get upset because Iran or somebody is trying to send them some weapons. Well, wait a minute. If you were Jewish and you saw unarmed Jews being persecuted, wouldn't you come to your brother's aid? Do you expect Muslims to see their brothers suffering like that and not come to their aid? So to stop the madness, President Bush has to rein in Ariel Sharon and stop him from using, in response to that, weapons that these people have no defense against. They tell Arafat, arrest the terrorists. He puts them in a jail, and the Israelis bomb the jail. That situation there is horrible. And as a Muslim, I feel the pain of the Palestinians. But as a human being, I feel the pain of the Jews as well. And until you can feel pain on both sides and understand where justice is and move on that principle, you cannot bring peace. I think our president needs a lot of help. And I hope that he'll be wise to seek it in the right places. And I want to say to the Muslims who follow Imam Muhammad and who follow Louis Farrakhan, we have a duty to make an Islamic community that bears witness to the beauty of Islam, that tells the world our love and respect for women, our knowledge that our women must be highly educated so that they can highly educate our children. We have to show America that racism is not a problem in Islam. And if we do that inside America, we can start a reform all over the Islamic world. I think it's going to start in America. And I would humbly say to the scholars, see yourselves as students. Don't dare arrogate to yourself that only you know what this book means. That is a terrible error on your part. I believe that the sincere heart, Allah will give understanding of this book. And I believe that Imam Muhammad and myself as brothers can do a work in America that would make America beautiful. His father, one day, after trying me, I think he was at the table, a sister, bless her heart, had said that I had taken her play and used her play, she thought, to make my own play called The Trial and Organa. And he took a stance and started beating on me at the table. And Mother Clara Muhammad tried to defend me. And he said, now you hush, Clara. I'm handling this. And he said, you did take that play from the sister, didn't you? He started being like a prosecuting attorney. And I said, no, sir. No, sir, I did not. And the more hard he got on me, the softer my voice got, until I couldn't take it no more, because I didn't want it to appear like I would argue with him. So I said, well, whatever you say I did, that's what I did. And he took his handkerchief and threw it on the table and said, well, all right then. And then he said, I was trying to get you to say that she took her play from yours because you were in the nation before her and you wrote your play before her. So I said to him, I could never charge her with taking anything from me since we got what we got from you. And you know what? On the way out of the house that night, he looked at me and so help me Allah, he said, you and my son Wallace, go and mop up the wilderness. And I believe with all my heart that those words were for a future time. Mopping up means the water is already down there, but we just have to take our mop and clean it up. And I believe that the life that God has left in me, which I think is plenty, you are not going to see me dead, I don't believe, for a while. I believe. I don't know what Allah's will is. And I don't believe the Imam is going nowhere either. We have work to do, and we're going to do it. And we have our Christian family that we are not going to deny the brotherhood to work to make our people better. And in making our people better, we make America better. America for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, the fruited mountain, what? Purple mountain majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God has shed his grace on thee. That's why we're here. So, if we do the good, let God crown that good. And with Islam and Christianity and Judaism, all of us working to bring to reality the will of God, we can produce a brotherhood. And that brotherhood will be from sea to the shining sea. And that is our mission. Nobody can do it, brothers and sisters. Americans and the Latinos, but I'm telling you, God has given you a heart that with all your suffering, you still got love. So let's use that as a redemptive force. And if our president goes to war, and you hear that Brother Farrakhan has been arrested, wait, I don't want you to act foolish. But this homeland terrorism stuff is real. And I believe right now they're after me. And because they know they're not going to control me. And I'm not going to let them, excuse the language, punk me. I'm not going to let them do that. I'm not going to let that happen. I'd rather be a dead man and go out of this world as a man that stood for something than to cow down like a dog with his tail between his legs and watch you go to hell simply because they say somebody overseas is doing them wrong. So if they arrest me, you know, they may do that. Yeah, God got my back too, brother. And got my front and my sides. But when you leave here today, I want you to practice two rules. The best of Jesus and the best of Muhammad. I heard Elijah Muhammad say that these words represent the best religion. When Jesus said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That is the best religion that you could practice. So start it. Stop slandering, gossiping, lying on people, because you don't want nobody to do that to you. Don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. And Muslim golden rule is that we are not Muslims until we love for our brother what we love for ourselves. Thank you for listening, and may Allah bless you all as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum. Ismail. Come on, brother. Right to the right. Thank you, sir. Hurry and tell him we for prayer.
Brothers and sisters, come on, show your love. Give the Honorable Come on, black man, you can do better than
I was told to deliver this message.